Hi, welcome to our presentation today at Gall Sewing on cutters. We have the Artistic Edge cutter, which comes in a 12-inch version and a 15-inch version, so it'll take a full roll of vinyl. We have the Brothers Scan-and-Cut and the new Brothers Scan-and-Cut coming, and then we also have the AccuQuilter. With the Artistic Edge and the Brothers Scan-and-Cut, you can do some really fine, detailed cutting, such as the lions back here, and you can do your own custom cutting because you're not reliant on a die or anything, any patterns that you're purchasing. You can take graphics online and turn them into a cut file, and then with the software, either Brother software or the Janome software, you can create stitches to turn that cut work into a stitch file or an applique in the hoop, which is kind of fun. We have also rhinestones that can be done with the Scan-and-Cut and the Artistic Edge. And with rhinestones, you would program your file or scan it in and create a stencil so that you can have the little holes for the crystals to be brushed into. You'd brush your crystals into it. You would then pick it up with a piece of transfer tape, and you would end up with your crystals all on the transfer tape. Then you would adhere that to the fabric that you want it to go onto, like a t-shirt or a quilt, and when you heat press that, those crystals would be permanent. I have a quilt here that is a sample of that, where it shows some of the crystals being applied right around some of the embroidery that I've done. And all of that was programmed in the software. So the crystals were cut on the cutter and the embroidery machine stitched out the designs. And you can see how fun and stunning that can make your quilt and your t-shirts and all kinds of stuff. You can do logos, you can do cheering t-shirts and #1 mom cheer fan or something if you want to. But those are some options that you have with the Artistic Edge and the Brothers Scan-and-Cut. They do very intricate cutting, and you will see in a little bit some samples of vinyl that are done. You have heat transfer vinyl, you have temporary vinyl that you can put on the walls and remove as your mood changes, and put up different sayings and stuff over mirrors. So there are some really fun options that you have with the vinyl, the crystals, and with fabric cutting. The other cutter that we just picked up recently is the AccuQuilt cutters. And so they have a manual cutter and an electric cutter. And when you're quilting, these cutters are designed for the quilter. They have shapes that are for quilters to assemble. And so what I like to look at it as is that my AccuQuilt cutter is my piecing cutter. That's the one where I'm going to cut out all the pieces for my quilt, because I can do 6 layers at a time. With the Brothers Scan-and-Cut and the Artistic Edge, you're doing 1 layer of fabric at a time. So that's more conductive for your finer cuts and the really tiny pieces that you're wanting to do for appliques and stuff like that. You can cut squares and quilting pieces, but it's going to take you a little longer. So in combination with an AccuCutter, you can cut 6 layers at a time. And with the AccuCutter, I can take my 45-inch fabric, I can lay it on this mat here, one of the dies, and I'm just going to show you the strip cutter today. You would take your cutting mat and place it over top of the fabric and the die, and then you just insert that and turn the handle here. Let me get it started. And it's very easy to turn. There's no strain or anything. And what I'm cutting here today are 2.5-inch strips, and then I'm going to show you one more cut after that. So you disperse the static, and you slide your mat off, take away the scrap. Whoops. And you've got perfect 2.5-inch strips. When I open that up, this is where it's really amazing. You don't have the little divots when the fabric was folded over. There's no little grooves in there. So you have perfect 2.5-inch strips. on the die here with the strip cutter, you have different lines. So you've got a 30 degree, a 40 degree, a 60 degree, and then you've got your 90 degree line right here. You could take this same strip, because it'll do 6 layers of fabric, and you can lay it straight across those blades again. Yeah, I should be able to get one more. No, we'll just go 2. I can lay it down on the 30 degree line here. We'll just leave that one there. And then I'll do a 60 degree one too. Just lay it right across your cutting lines, and then put your mat back on there. Place it back in here. And if you like star quilts, or you need 2.5 inch squares for your Mondo bags, or borders, or whatever you're piecing together, disperse the static and then pull the mat off. And here I've got 60 degree diamonds that I can lay out and piece together, and all of your seams will match because they're perfectly cut. You don't have the cutting errors on angles, which a lot of people struggle with. Here's your 30 degrees. Yeah. And obviously, if you cut 2 colors at a time, you'd have a little more variation. With the 30 degree, you can also do tumbling blocks. So you could come right in here and have, whoops, I'm doing it backwards. There. Tumbling blocks. Very easily to cut. And then you also have 2.5 inch squares, perfectly cut. No angles on there at all. So, well, I shouldn't say no angles. There are 90 degree angles, but perfect 2.5 inch squares, so that it makes it easy for piecing your quilts accurately. And because you've cut accurately, your quilts will come out and your squares will all be the same size. So for the piecing back here, I did use different dies and strip sets, and I cut out, this is one of their standard blocks right here. My square is right here. And you can see you've got your half square triangles or flying geese and rectangles that were perfectly cut using the dies. They have different size cubes which contain 8 basic shapes, and then they have corner cubes which have another additional 4 shapes, and they have angle cubes. And with those 3 cubes together, the possibilities are limitless. You can make all kinds of different squares. You have, with each cube, 72 different blocks that are suggested, but I'm sure there are other combinations we can put together and come up with our own creativity too. So you've got all kinds of fun that we can have, and with combining a couple cutters and your sewing machine and embroidery machine, the sky is the limit. So now we're going to show you some samples. These here were cut with your artistic edge or your brother's Scan-and-Cut, and we cut out the little dancers here and all the piano keys real easily, and then had Wonder Under on the back, and we could adhere those right to the fabric with very little work, but it's very stunning in the finished effect. So we had also with the AccuCutter, we cut all these petals out and the squares and have a fun little quilt with all these flowers and stems and leaves and stuff too. So there are shapes for applique with the AccuCutter also, but they're more quilt oriented and not necessarily as specific as like logos you can take offline and things. You do want to be very, very careful, just a warning to our customers, with copyright images. If you're doing those for yourself, that's your own prerogative, but you cannot do those and sell them. So don't think we can make Detroit Lions quilts and sell them and get rich. You would get in big trouble for that. So We're going to pan and show some samples that we've done with all the cutters and kind of show you some of the vinyl application and some quilting applications. And then we'll come back with a special surprise. Hey, are you still watching out there? If you've enjoyed this presentation and you're from Michigan, come join us at Gall Sewing and Vacuum Center and we'll give you a 25% off discount on any cutting accessories that you're interested in. Or join us for a class. Come sew with us. If you're not from Michigan, go to any licensed Janome or Brother dealer and visit them and see what cutter is appropriate for you. Have some fun and thanks for joining us.